Hello and welcome to Elemental Hardware Enrichment. My name is Aiden and today we're going to be building Hooked. Before we get started with building, let's go ahead and introduce the supplies that we're going to need for this project. For this project, we're going to need a damp rag, a bottle of glue, a hardware tray, some sandpaper, a hammer block, and our safety glasses. Let's go ahead and put those on now. Now that we've introduced all of our supplies, let's go ahead and talk about the tools that we're going to need. So I've got my toolkit right here. I'm going to go ahead and open it up and take out the tools that I need. So for this project, I'm going to need a hammer and a set of needle nose pliers. Now that I've got all my tools, I can go ahead and close up my toolkit and get it out of my way. All right, we've got our supplies, we've got our tools, so the next step will be to open up our box and talk about what we're going to find inside. Let's go ahead and open up our box and talk about what we're going to find inside. So to open the box, I'm going to be using the back of the hammer, and I'm just going to be sliding the claw of the hammer down the tape where the two box flaps meet to split it open. Now that I've split the tape, I can go ahead and grab the corners and pry them up. The first thing that I'm going to be taking out of the box is some packing paper, and I'm just going to be opening up that paper to make sure there's nothing wrapped up inside of it before I get it out of my way. Next, I'm going to be taking out this bag of hardware, and I'm just going to be putting this off to the side for now because we'll talk about it a little bit later. Next, let's talk about our wood parts. So the first piece I'm taking out looks like this, and this is going to be my upright dowel. Next, I have 4 square pieces, and these are going to be the feet for my project. Next, I have my 2 leg pieces, and they look very similar, but they're slightly different. Leg A is blank on both sides, and leg B has the Elemental Hardware brand on one side. So we have leg A and leg B. And the last wood pieces we're taking out are our arms, and again, they're very similar but slightly different. We're going to start with arm A, and you'll notice that arm A has pre-drilled holes on the side opposite from this dado. And arm B looks very similar, but this piece has the holes on the same side as the dado. So no holes on this side. Now that we've introduced all of our wood parts, we can get our box out of the way. Okay, we've gotten everything out of our box, so the next step will be to talk about our hardware. Let's go ahead and talk about our hardware. So I have my hardware bag right here. I'm going to go ahead and open it up and talk through what's inside. The first thing I'm taking out is these strings, and this is actually 4 different strings tied together. Next, we have a blue dot bag with our screw hooks, a purple dot bag with our 3/4 inch finish nails. We have a yellow dot bag with our hanger bolts, our rings, and our cord locks. And the last bag we have in here is going to contain our screw eyes and our wing nuts. Now that we've got everything out of the hardware bag, let's get it out of the way. And now we're ready to move on to our next step, which is going to be to sand our wood parts. All right, let's get started sanding. So I'm going to start by taking my sandpaper and laying it down so that the soft side faces up, and then I'm going to lay my hammer block across it. I'm then going to fold over the sides of the sandpaper to form a sanding block. Then I can go ahead and sand the edges of all my wood parts. So let's go ahead and do that now. Alright, I've sanded the edges of all my pieces, so now I'm going to be removing the sandpaper from the sanding block and sanding some of the harder to reach areas. I'm going to be starting with these through holes on my legs, and I'm just going to use the corner of the sandpaper and place it right up against the hole to just sand it out a little bit. Once I've done my legs, I can do the same thing with the holes on the arms. And the very last thing I want to do is sand the holes at the top and bottom of my upright dowel. All right, I've got all my pieces sanded, so now I'm just going to use my rag to wipe away any dust. All right, we've got our pieces all sanded and cleaned up, so now we're ready to begin our build by attaching our feet to our legs. All right, let's go ahead and start attaching the feet to our legs. So I'm going to be starting with leg A, and remember leg A is the one that does not have the brand on it. And we're going to be placing this onto our work surface so that the side with this dado faces up. And I'm going to place it just like that. Next I'm going to need 2 of our feet. It doesn't matter which 2 because they're all the same. And I'm just going to place those right there just like that. I'm then going to be looking for my purple dot bag containing my 3/4 inch finish nails, and I'm going to open that up and dump it into my tray. I'm going to start by placing 1 finish nail into each of the pre-drilled holes on one of my feet. Next, I'm going to remove the red cap from my glue, and I'm going to place it into my tray so I don't lose it. And then I'm going to flip this foot with the nails in it over and apply some glue to the opposite end. Once I've got the glue on there, I can go ahead and spread it evenly using my finger. Once I've got that glue all spread out, I can go ahead and wipe my finger clean, and then I'm going to place the glued edge of the foot right here onto the edge of my leg. And now I want to take some time to line up the foot so that it's flush on both sides. Once I've got it flush, I'm going to be holding it in place with my non-dominant hand, and I'm going to tack in my first nail. So I've hit that nail about halfway in, and now I can still make a couple of adjustments to make sure that my alignment is correct. Once I've confirmed that, I can go ahead and finish off that second nail and the first one. Once I have those nails hammered in, I just want to double check that they're flush. If they're sticking up at all, you can just give them another tap. And then we can go ahead and wipe up any excess glue. All right, we've got that first foot attached, so let's go ahead and do the exact same thing with the next one. We're going to set it right here and set 2 nails into the holes. Next, we're going to go ahead and flip it over and apply some glue to the opposite side. Then we can just place it here on the opposite end of the leg and begin to line it up so that it's flush with the edges of the leg. Once we've got it flush, I'm going to hold it in place with my non-dominant hand and tack in my first nail. Now I can go ahead and double check my alignment, make any necessary adjustments to ensure I'm still flush, and then I can finish off my nails. Just like before, I want to double check that my nails are flush, and then I can wipe up any excess glue. Now that we've got the feet attached to leg A, we're going to go ahead and attach our feet to leg B. Now we're going to do this in a very similar way with one major difference. When we attach the feet to leg A, our dado was facing up. When we attach our feet to leg B, we want to make sure that this dado is facing down. And other than that, we're going to do the exact same thing. So I'm going to take a foot, go ahead and set a couple of nails. I'm going to flip it over and apply my glue. And I'm going to spread that glue out evenly. Now I can go ahead and place that glued edge right onto the edge of my leg and start to line everything up. All right, it's all lined up, so let's tack in our nail. Now let's double check our alignment and finish off our nails. Just like before, double check that our nails are flush and then wipe up any excess glue. All right, we've got one more foot to attach, so let's go ahead and do that now. just like that, we have both of our legs assembled with the feet attached, and we're ready to move on to our next step, which is going to be to begin to assemble our upright dowel. All right, let's begin to assemble our upright dowel. So our upright dowel has a hole on the top and bottom, and we're going to start by attaching a hanger bolt to each of those holes. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my yellow dot bag and remove my hanger bolts. And then I'm also going to open up this bag here and take out my wing nuts. Now, if you take a look at the hanger bolts, you'll notice that one side has these large threads or large spaces between the threads, and this is going to be the wood screw side of our hanger bolt. The other side has a much narrower space between the threads and a lot more threads. It also has this flat edge, and that's going to be the machine screw side of our hanger bolt. That's actually the side we're going to be working with first. So what we want to do is hold the hanger bolt so that the machine screw side faces up, and then we're going to grab one of our wing nuts and hold it so that the wings face down. We're then going to place the wing nut over the hanger bolt and screw it onto that machine screw side, again making sure that the wings are facing down. And I'm just going to screw this on with my fingers, and I want to screw it down until the tips of the wings sit just a few threads above this wood screw side. So maybe there's like 3 or 4 threads between the end of the machine screw and the beginning of the wood screw. So just take your time to screw it down and make sure you leave yourself enough space. Just like that. Once you have that one in place, you're going to hold it with your non-dominant hand, and you're going to grab your remaining wing nut, and this time you're going to hold it so that the wings face up. And I'm going to go ahead and screw this onto the top. Once I have it so that the 2 wing nuts are touching, I'm going to hold them in both hands and twist them together to lock them in place. And now I can use this top wing nut to attach the hanger bolt to my upright dowel. So it doesn't matter if you start on the top or the bottom, you're going to align the wood screw side of the hanger bolt over the hole in the dowel. You're going to hold on to this top wing nut, the one with the wings facing up, and you're going to go ahead and set this into place. And do your best to make sure that the hanger bolt remains straight while you do this. You're not going to screw it all the way in with your fingers because that can be a little bit challenging, but just set it so it's not going to fall out of the hole. Once you've got it set in place, you're going to grab your needle nose pliers, and you're going to use those to grip the wings on that top wing nut. Remember, those are the ones where the wings are facing up. And then you're going to use that to apply leverage so that you can twist this hanger bolt into the upright dowel until the down-facing wings make contact. As soon as those wings on the bottom make contact with the upright dowel, we've screwed it in enough. And now we can go ahead and remove our wing nuts. Now you can try to grip the bottom here and remove the top one, but if you're having trouble with that, go ahead and grab the top one with your pliers and just try to loosen it up a little bit. Once you have it loose, you can remove it with your fingers. And then we can go ahead and take the bottom one off as well. Once you have that first hanger bolt attached, we're going to go ahead and do the exact same thing on the other end. So we're going to grab our remaining hanger bolt, hold it so that the machine screw side faces up, and we're going to start with our first wing nut with the wings facing down, and go ahead and screw that on. Remember, you want to screw it on until the tips of the wings are sitting just like 3 or 4 threads above the start of that wood screw section. So right about there. Once you've got that in place, you're going to hold it with your non-dominant hand and then screw your next wing nut on with the wings facing up. Oops, having a little bit of trouble with this one. There it goes. Once the 2 wing nuts touch, you're going to grab them and twist them together with both hands to lock them in place. And now, just like before, I'm going to grab my top wing nut and use it to screw the hanger bolt into this hole. Now you want to make sure that your hanger bolt is straight up and down, and you're just going to set it into the hole. Once you've got it set as deep as you can, go ahead and grab that top wing nut with your pliers, grip it in place, and go ahead and screw this the rest of the way down until the bottom wing nut makes contact. As soon as that makes contact, we can go ahead and use our pliers to loosen up that top wing nut and then remove it. Once we've removed it, we can go ahead and place it in our tray and then remove the other wing nut. And that goes in the tray as well. Next, we're going to go ahead and attach our screw hooks. So I have my screw hooks right here. They're going to be in the blue dot bag. I'm going to go ahead and open that up and dump them out. Now, if you take a look at the upright dowel, you'll notice that there's a hole in each edge. And we're going to go ahead and use our fingers to screw a screw hook into each of these holes. Now, once the screw hook is almost fully tightened, you want to make sure that when you finish, it's going to point up towards the long end of the upright dowel. That's very important. We want all of our hooks facing the same direction up towards this side. Now let's go ahead and just attach the rest of them. And again, making sure that they're facing up towards this end of the upright dowel. And just like that, we have our upright dowel assembled. So now we're ready to move on to our next step, which is going to be to attach our screw eyes to our arms. All right, let's go ahead and attach our screw eyes to our arms. So I'm going to be starting with arm A, and remember that's the arm that has these pre-drilled holes on the opposite side from this dado. And I'm going to place it onto my work surface so that the dado faces down and these holes here face up. I'm then going to go ahead and locate my screw eyes and dump them into my tray. What I'm going to be doing is just using my fingers to screw one screw eye into each of these pre-drilled holes. Once I've got one in, I can go ahead and screw in the next one. All right, I've got both screw eyes attached to this arm, so let's move on to arm B. Remember, arm B has the pre-drilled holes on the same side as the dado. So we're going to set this so that the dado faces up and the holes face up. And we're just going to do the exact same thing. We're going to screw one screw eye into each of these holes. All right, and just like that, we have our screw eyes attached. So we're ready to move on to our next step, which is going to be to attach our legs and our arms to our upright dowel. All right, we're going to begin by attaching our legs to our upright dowel. So I want to start by taking leg B, remember that's the one with the logo, and I'm going to place it so that the dado faces up. I'm then going to grab leg A and make sure my dado is facing down. Now these two dados are going to line up so that the pieces form a cross shape. And I'm just going to line them up just like this. You may be able to slide them together with your fingers with no problem, but if you need to, you can also use your hammer to tap them into place. And once they're lined up, they should look just like this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the hanger bolt closest to my screw hooks into the hole that's in between the two legs. Now you may be able to place this right through, or you might have to screw it in. And you want to make sure that the upright dowel sits flush on top of the legs and that your screw hooks align with your legs. Next, you're going to flip this over and you're going to grab one of your wing nuts. Now we're going to make sure the wings face up and we're going to go ahead and screw that wing nut on using our fingers. Get that as tight as you can with your fingers and then just double check to make sure that everything's lined up properly. And just like that, we have our legs attached. So now let's go ahead and attach our arms. I'm going to move this off to the side for just a second. And I'm going to lay arm B here so that the dado faces up. And then I'm going to take arm A and make sure that the dado is facing down. And just like before, I'm going to line the two pieces up. And they may fit together perfectly. If not, you can give them a little tap. And then we're just going to attach this by holding it so that the screw eyes face down. And we're going to place it right here on this top hanger bolt. Now it may slide right on, or you may have to spin it to get it on. And we want to make sure that it's going to sit flush on the top of this upright dowel. And what's really important on this side is that the arms are in line with the screw hooks. So once I have everything lined up, I can grab my remaining wing nut and go ahead and screw that on. Make sure it's all aligned, and then we can tighten it down. And just like that, we have our arms and our legs attached to our upright dowel. So the next step will be to attach the rings to our strings so we can begin to finish up the project. All right, let's begin attaching our rings to our strings. So I'm going to go ahead and move this off to the side just for now. And I'm going to be opening up my yellow dot bag, and I can just dump everything out into my tray. Next, I'm going to go ahead and pick up my strings, and right now they're all tied together, so I need to pull them apart. I should have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we're going to be attaching one ring to each of our strings. So let's go ahead and lay them out. How we're going to do that is we're going to pick up one of the rings, and we're going to place the string through the ring till we have 1 or 2 inches hanging out like that. Next, you're going to hold your string, and you're just going to tie a knot to attach it to the ring. Once you've got it knotted, you're going to go ahead and double knot it. Make sure it's nice and tight, and then we're going to drop a little bead of glue onto that knot to lock it in place. Once you have the glue on there, you can go ahead and lay this down while it dries, and we're going to do the next one. So just like before, place the string through the ring, make sure you have 1 inch or 2 hanging out, and go ahead and tie your knot. Once you've tied the knot, go ahead and double knot it. And then we're going to pull it nice and tight. And then just like before, add a little drop of glue. Now let's go ahead and do the same thing with our last 2 rings. All right, we've got our rings secured to all of our strings, so now we're ready to move on to our last step, which is going to be to use our cord locks to attach the strings to the arms. All right, let's go ahead and attach these strings to the arms so we can finish up this project. And to do that, we're going to be using our cord locks. So we're going to use 1 cord lock for each string. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be pressing and holding this button down while I feed the string through one of these openings. So I'm going to feed it through and out the other side. Once I've got it on there, I'm going to pull it down about halfway down onto the string. And I'm going to do that with all 4. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, once you have your cord locks attached to each of your strings, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to feed one of the strings through one of your screw eyes. You're going to feed it through just like that, and then you're going to press and hold the button again and feed the tip of the string through the other hole in the cord lock. And once again, you want to feed it through until it comes out the bottom. And pull it tight just like that. Now let's go ahead and do that on all 4 arms. So once again, I'm feeding the string through the ring in the screw eye, pulling it down like that, and then I'm going to press and hold the button on my cord lock and feed the string down through that remaining hole. Let's go ahead and finish off the last 2. All right, we've got them all attached. Now the last thing to do is just to space them out so they can fit onto the hooks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this end of the string and then press and hold the cord lock. And I'm going to pull down lightly until I can get my ring onto the hook, just like that. And once I have it onto the hook, I'm just going to release any of the slack. And I don't want it super tight, so I'm just going to pull it a little bit more like that. And again, let's do that with all 4. I'm going to hold the button on the cord lock, just pull the ring until it reaches the hook, and then if I need to, I can remove any slack. Now the nice thing about these is the cord locks allow the strings to be adjustable. So if you find that the game is too easy or too hard, you can adjust the length of the string accordingly to make it perfect for you. So I finished building this project. The next step is going to be to get it decorated, and I'll be right back. All right, I got my project all decorated and I think it turned out really great. I decided to go with the palm tree just because I felt like it was giving off the island vibe, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. Now I'm ready to take this home or take it to a party and play with my friends. I really appreciate you guys stopping by to build this with me on Elemental Hardware Enrichment. My name is Aiden and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next one.